sometimes they'll actually put down 6 inches of gravel right over the asphalt, and then come through and grind it and combine it all together, and then check the.
All right, let's get this show on the road. Rob's not coming. All right. This meeting is being broadcast on the internet through the courtesy of a number of people who are not affiliated with the town of Alstead. I have read the minutes. I have some questions. I have some changes. Mike Gordon. The new cruiser will be lettered before the 1st of March. Linda, did you find the $500,000 that Bob Quagan was looking for?
It was supposed to be 55, not 500.
Excellent.
And if you look at the bottom line, you could tell it was over.
It's all right. It's all right. It's just following up.
And actually, all those numbers weren't the actual numbers.
Don't tell people that. Don't tell the internet that. So there's a spelling municipal, and then I'm done.
Oh.
That's all right.
Green or yellow.
Today, you can use either one. Just don't make the moderatrix run. She'll whack you with her.
Yeah, I have no other comments on this.
Other input about the minutes from the public. I have a question about the minutes from the deliberative session.
Those are glorious.
And they'll be available for me to post on the internet
They should be
someday.
right now.
So Kelly, could you point that out?
Yep.
I'd love to see them.
That'll be the first year.
Yeah, well, usually it takes me a year to read them.
Okay.
Because they don't show up until the next town report. But I think we can do better.
Yeah, absolutely.
We probably can't correct them.
No, you
I
can't.
don't know that, but I suspect we
Actually, what you're supposed to do is put them in the next year, and you can correct them at the beginning of the next meeting.
I bet there's absolutely no interest in that. So, how are we coming on the town report?
Oh.
Oh, stop your whining.
Read it tomorrow.
Let me phrase that another way. Is there something Chris should be doing to help you with the town report?
No. Staying away from me.
Is there something any of us can do to help?
No.
Okay.
Is it just the different formats, or?
Yeah, I'm just trying to format it to get it, and I'm still not sure what we're going to do unless you can reformat a couple of them.
I can help you with it.
Okay. After I get it to the printer, because they reformat it down there, I will get in touch with you right off, because it will be done.
If you need help.
Yeah, well, thanks, Chris.
And I am adding a few more pictures this year. On some of the ones that came out half, I found some old pictures, or I had Bruce get me old pictures,
Nice.
and I put them in. I thought it'd be good.
I like looking at the pictures.
That's the only part we don't argue about. Speaking of Bruce, the town should know that Reggie Clark is up to Hanover. He's a cemetery commissioner and a sweetheart, and there's great concern about his future. And his wife, Bruce, and Judy are taking Louise up tomorrow for some more poking, and I don't know what. He didn't need to be very specific, but it sounds pretty bad. So if you like candles, Reggie would be one to light them for. The ballot. How are we coming on the ballot?
It's
Got all the recommendations in there, all the language regulated,
just what you
all
put
the
in.
spelling spelled, all the numbers got the right number of zeros? Well, the reason I ask is I'm volunteering to look over it one more time and then post it on the web.
Okay. I will do that. I'll send it to you tomorrow morning.
That's permitted, I think it is, as long as people don't print it out.
What's supposed to, it's not with the corrections.
I certainly
No,
will.
that is just the warrant.
The one on the wall is the one that goes into the deliberative session. The one that goes to, that turns into a ballot is the one I'm trying to get a hold of. It reflects our,
But what came up, it was just put up the other day on the web, was prior to the corrections being.
Yes.
correct.
Or changes, yeah.
Yes. And this one will say ballot, and I always put it at the beginning of the book.
Okay.
And we'll say sample too.
Yeah, good idea.
Just thinking, the Vermont vote.
So here's some, not much of this is controversial, but the AABC has asked me to ask you and me if we're okay with including something from them in the selectmen's letter. So we should back up. And I'll just say, historically, the selectmen have written a letter to the voters after the deliberative session, generally set to arrive the Friday before the second Tuesday, that says, here's what we think about these warrant articles. We're not obliged to do that. We've usually done it. It seems to be something that's welcome. It costs $150, $160. So first, do you want to do that this year?
I'm good with that.
And second, when does that due to you? Like first week of March at the latest. Third, you want me to make a draft and have you two guys react to it?
That's always fun.
That's better for me.
Yeah, we can do that.
And then we'll go back to the AABC. So if we get that thing written and the AABC has something they want to say about individual warrant articles, which would be different than their postcard, which I know they intend to send out.
So they're talking about sending their regular communication plus a...
I don't know if this is an either or for them, but I will find out once we answer the question of should they want to add to a separate piece to our traditional letter, do we approve of that?
If they are planning on doing a mailing, do we get the same price if it's 2 sheets versus 1 sheet?
We can do up to 7 sheets.
Up to 7. My
I've done
gosh.
that many one year.
So we can have a selectmen's report from each selectman.
You're good. Mine would be short. But I think that's fine if they want to, A, include their normal communication, and B, I mean, they're an advisory committee. I'm sure Rock is going to say the same thing that I'm thinking is we'd like to take a look at it before it goes out. But
Comments from the public? Yay, nay, don't care?
Again, along with Chris was saying, and why at the deliberative session I proposed that the recommendations not be on the ballot, their votes voting not be on the ballot, is they are an advisory committee, and last year there was such a big consternation about the process and the presentation and all that sort of thing, that I would think you're correct. You got to find out what they're going to say, and not just let them put up willy-nilly, because it could be anti what you're proposing, what you're recommending.
Well, and that's okay, frankly, for me, as long as we're clear in our publication, this is an advisory group and not a statutory one.
Right.
I think we'll be all right. And from what I've seen of the drafts of their postcard, which is essentially what we're looking for with a little more detail, and a vote counter, which we did collect, it's all pretty responsible about stuff about how, the selectmen said this and we said that, and the difference isn't enough to get excited about. That's in the places where we disagree, 8 out of 80% agreement as it is.
Well, yeah, that's what I said, 85% of what they proposed.
So I think it's a good process. It wasn't always as smooth as it might have been, but that's because I'm so argumentative.
and then their postcard is going to be to discuss, to educate on the unassigned fund balance, which is, I think, a good thing. Everybody needs to understand how that works, and no one ever will.
Nobody ever will, because it's
It's hard to understand.
It's not that hard.
No, it's not, but I think for a lot of people it's.
Sat down with
And
a 12-month
is
calendar
also sending out a letter.
and marked
That's
out
coming out of the fire budget.
the dates.
Tomorrow, yeah, they're coming down to do that.
Okay. So is this basically a plea from the fire department, or?
Yeah, it's just to explain what the truck, I believe. I haven't read it, so.
Gotcha.
You want to say that? Well, let's finish the AABC thing. We're okay after we get a chance to review.
Yeah, I think, with review, I think it's.
Caution, but no objections from the public, so you'll note that, Kelly. So about the fire truck,
I think the EMS group is going to put out a letter.
they almost certainly will.
Yeah, they are, and they're coming down tomorrow to do it. And it's coming out of the fire budget.
And it's an advocacy piece. They're not done, as of last night, they weren't done with the second meeting with the vendors. They got 3 out of 4. And Carol wrote a little note to me about it. I should have been CC'd to you guys. I'll make sure you get it. But basically, they're working through the process with the vendors, trying to negotiate the price and the specs and get that balance just right before they choose one, which I think is very grown up.
That part, I'm just kind of thinking through the sort of the advocacy of the fire department using town money to ask for their fire truck.
Well, they don't have to use town money for that. They do maintain a
Or good.
gratitude donation bucket.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just kind of trying to think through that, because this is the first I've heard of that one. I mean, if Jesse wants a new defibrillator, would he?
Turns out he does.
I know that. But would it be fine if Jesse just wrote a letter because he had some money left in his budget, sent it to everybody in the town, says, please, please, please approve this because it might save your life? I mean, I get that aspect of it.
This is more of a warrant article, though. It's not like we're voting, public gets to vote whether yes or no we get that fire truck.
I know.
You have nothing to do with it now.
No, it is. It's completely up to the public, other than, again, it's.
You're just trying to focus on the bit of who's paying for the advocacy.
Well, yeah, my concern is the town has already voted to put a warrant on the ballot. We've got that far. And now I'm just wondering about where does the advocacy come in? Has that been done before? Probably.
Yeah.
Is that a typical thing?
Right, it'd be just like you writing your letter. You're advocating for that warrant article or this warrant article, does that just have to be on?
You made that clear.
But they
During
are
the year.
part of the town,
Right,
these,
right. Right.
Well, this will be great because when we finish this discussion, I just got an inquiry from a friend of the food shelf saying, hey, can we use the town's mailing permit?
We give it to everybody.
Well,
They're paying for the thing, we're just letting them use the permit. We let Langdon use it, we let the school use
it's
it.
my job to make sure these issues don't sneak up on people and bite them.
Yeah. If this type of thing has been done in the past, I'm not gonna object. Like I said, it was just.
Bill Hollow did it, and stuff like that, so it's not unusual.
Yeah. Okay. And you're right, now I come back around to the part of, we're all paying for advocacy. On behalf of departments,
Right.
which, that part kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but if it's been done before, it's been done before.
Doesn't make it right.
I know that.
So how about if,
My internal.
how about if tonight's selectmen vote unanimously to require that those advocacy pieces from departments get paid for by the department's discretionary funds, not the taxpayers' funds?
Where did they get their discretionary funds?
So you take grandma to the hospital in the ambulance, and the family writes the ambulance, not the town, a check for $50. Thanks very much.
I think I like that.
And you write that to,
Put it in the minutes.
right, but they're coming down tomorrow.
I'll make sure they know, and so will you.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Does
that's what,
anybody else?
that's what the food shop is doing. They're not asking us for the money.
Right,
They just want to use the permit.
Yeah.
And they're having an advocacy piece based on a warrant article.
Yeah.
Fair is fair.
And I kind of like, does this rub anybody else the wrong way, or do you?
No, doing what you do, needs the wrong way.
But you don't know, right?
Because I think,
I don't know, I think there's a difference between food shelf and school.
Fire
and
department, yeah.
Fire department's paid for. It's not like Ackworth where fire department is a
They're
totally
their
separate
own,
entity.
yeah.
The fire department is part of the town. I mean, that part of it I can understand.
So the advocacy.
It's for the town,
Right.
betterment of the town.
Well, it depends. Some people may be very much against a new fire truck.
Right. And they can.
Then that is certainly not advocacy that they support.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not campaign finance.
Yeah, exactly. That's the part that I'm, so like whether you agree with it or not, you're gonna pay for it. And not only you get.
As long as I pay for that, okay, with reality.
That's why I like the new itemized tax.
Part-time help.
From the federal rate they pick, I wanna support this, but I don't wanna support that.
Yeah.
I wish. Yeah. So I'm okay with your idea using discretionary funds. I think that's as good a compromise as we're gonna get. That's the whole thing sort of. It's like I said, people that may not agree with it end up paying for it. But we'll drop it. Let's move on. What else you got?
So when the fire department show up to those houses and don't agree with it.
There certainly have been towns where,
That's happened.
well, where the suspicion of that was very strong.
Yeah.
Right. It's just whether they show up in a nice shiny truck or whether they shine and show up in less shiny truck.
So,
Well, then you're saying that when you want your defibrillator or a new ambulance or whatever, they're gonna have to use the discretionary fund too.
yeah,
I think that's appropriate.
Some people, there's only two parts of the town that can have discretionary funds.
3 if you count the police department.
Yeah. 3,
Police, fire, and ambulance?
yes, that's all.
Okay.
So if somebody else wanted something else, they couldn't have.
So here, let me spin this out into a hypothetical, which is actually an eventual. I am not cool with spending town tax money for David to advocate 2 years from now for a $300,000 dump truck. I think the selectmen will advocate for it, or not. It'll show up on the warrant, or not. And then if citizens want to get together and spend $150 advocating for it because it's a great idea, you should do that. But I don't think the taxpayers should be compelled to spend even that tiny little bit of money for basically advertising or marketing.
It is.
Above and beyond what we
Exactly
do.
what it is.
And if it's a real problem for the libertarians in the room, I will pay 1/3 of the mailing cost for the selectmen's mailing out of my pocket. But actually, I think that's our appropriate role where we say, no, and this is especially this year is going to be true with the 19th warrant article. We're going to say, you better read this, and you better read it slow. Because if you check yes when you thought you were saying yes, what you really just said was no.
Right.
And fortunately, the warrant articles that we wrote aren't quite as ambiguous, but that one, people trip over that one.
I think that was probably a lot of thought went into that warrant article, the way it is.
Couldn't help you with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's a reasonable compromise. I think that doesn't prevent anybody from.
Has anyone ever described you as reasonable?
No, not yet. I'm
It's not
still
going to happen tonight.
No.
The Conservation Commission was approached by Fred Ernst, who was here 3 weeks ago. Most of you in the room know the story. There's a long-running attempt to fund a habitat rehab project from Cominch's Garage back upstream to the neighborhood of the Griffin Hill Bridge. U.S. Fish and Wildlife, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, New Hampshire Fish and Game, somebody else. Anyway, they couldn't come up with enough money to get the job done. This has been cooking for 3 years. Every year when there isn't enough money, they change the specs. They get a new number. It's either higher or lower than the one that they... Anyway, we get to this year. This is the last chance for some of the granting funding. Expires in September. They came to us, the select board, 3 weeks ago and said, we need $26,000. After some discussion, he said, nope. Or we said mostly no. I pushed them to visit the Conservation Commission, and much to my surprise, after some deliberation, the Conservation Commission said, yep,
And they got
They're
a
gonna fund
project
the whole
on
thing?
it too.
they're going to fund
Enough
the
of it.
gap to get the job done. Yeah.
No, they got a project on it.
No.
Did they?
The way to say this is that the Conservation Commission supported this project
Right.
with enough money to put it over the goal line,
Right.
we think.
Yeah.
And we're surprised and happy.
Did you note also, maybe I didn't forward the email, but it came through that the Government Council approved the Moose Grant again too.
That's where the other thing came from, Moose Place.
Moose Place, and then there's a couple of
Little ones.
small ones, so.
Well, the Walpole Conservation Commission put some money into it. And somebody else on the drainage, I don't know, it could have been Agwood.
Then they had personal ones.
And there was some private funding too, which is always good. So there we are, that's my announcement. We have a 7 p.m. personnel meeting with Marcello, I presume that's him. It's no secret that we're trying to hire a patrolman. We have a candidate that we like very much. We're trying to decide, essentially, at this meeting tonight, we're going to try to decide when. So the risk is if we're working with a default budget, do we still want to go ahead with this new hire? I said yes, but I'm just one guy.
The issue is because it's not funded yet, that it doesn't fund it.
I would be reluctant to, it's personal now, this is not policy, I'd be reluctant to hire essentially a lifetime, full-time hire with all the bells and whistles before March 9th. But given the spread between the default budget and the proposed budget is so small, the selectmen are going to have to decide tonight or soon if they want to take a risk and commit to that hire starting next week, because now that the deliberative session is passed, we know what the small number is going to be.
But the offer letter could be constructed as such to put a caveat.
We made an offer, and it was contingent on the budget passing in March. We have the authority, and we've been encouraged to consider using it to say, hey, we got through the deliberative session. The police department's budget was unmolested. We should honor that, make this hire as soon as we can, blah, blah, blah. I think that's a sensible position that could be defended. And then if we find ourselves operating, or you find yourselves operating with a default budget, as Chris always says, we'll get it out of gravel.
There you go.
And based on our snowfall so far over the last quarter of last year and the first 2/3 of this year, we might actually be able to get away with that. So that's what we're talking about tonight. It's not a secret. It's just personnel, so it'll be private. And for that reason, we're not releasing the name of our chosen candidate, but he does, as near as I can tell, fit all of our criteria, which are currently New Hampshire certified for full-time service, some experience, not a tremendous amount, but a licensed professional police officer in another town who is a homeowner in this town, which is
Currently employed?
currently employed, currently a homeowner, longtime resident, blah, blah, blah.
And a
So-
nice guy.
And a nice guy besides, so. I
Well,
think,
the reason I asked that question is because assuming, with my background, the caveat would be in there because he might not want to start until after the budget's passed. Anyway, just as a protector before.
I can promise you that we're not going to force him to start before he wants to. And I'll be interested to see what the chief is actually advocating. I have an inkling that he's going to say, well, we got this all done, the budget passed, let's do this right now. Now, that doesn't mean that he'll start tomorrow.
Right.
I don't know what the condition of his ending employment in one town and starting in another is. And frankly, I don't care. I just want to keep moving forward. I did authorize the chief to reach out to the state police and tell them that we no longer needed that memorandum of understanding that they promised us in November for additional patrol.
Do we ever pay him anything?
We never paid them a nickel, and they provided the service we were asking for, so I'm saying that's a pretty good deal. And the other thing I authorized them to do was respond to that letter that we received from our favored chief's applicant, who essentially wrote to us in January and said, hey, what's going on? And now we know what's going on.
Yeah.
So those two activities are either complete or underway. And that's all I know about anything.
Couple quick gravel bids, did you ever get those out?
I haven't.
Who's gonna do it?
Linda is.
Like I-
You were kind enough to provide the form and the specification again.
Did you send me the form?
I'll send you it again, if you like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
And
Send it to your Word, just in case you want to change it around a little bit, that's why I left it Word, so I did it
Is it
PDF.
the same spec as last year?
it is the same quantities.
Cleaned up, yeah, just cleaned it up with all the different
And
variants.
at least one of the contractors that bid last year is going to provide the same price.
Gotcha. We learned a lot going through that bid
Yeah.
process. How about gravel?
I don't think you need to learn that twice. But I did get the screen question answered, I just don't remember what the answer was, but that is an important one for,
One's the quadrant, one's the squares.
that's an important question for somebody. I did last, I can't remember who.
Important question for people that don't want their tires punctured. That was a concern last year.
Right, I don't remember anybody complaining about that last year, but
Well, we often confuse coincidence with causality.
I remember that, but there was a lot of talk of,
There's a talk, so worth what we paid for that talk too.
I'm just saying.
yeah, it depends what town you're driving through. I mean, I have sluts in my tires, but. Next thing is trash. Happened to be up at Dexter's Towing, which is up in Claremont, and they had a nice little roll-off sitting there, and I go, what do you guys use that for? And I guess they haul a lot of Ruger's stuff. And he says, I don't have it busy enough. So I said, well, so what I wanted to do is chat with him on the town behalf, what he charges, and, you know, if there's some type of a setup that we could possibly use him instead of using our own truck.
That's interesting.
So, fully support that, and we did ask it in the busiest time of year for staff to reach back out to green trucks, who used to haul for us, who is at the Mafia,
Waste man.
Waste management,
to see what they're charging these days.
Nobody ever got back.
It's great when you say volunteer,
Yeah.
waste management.
But I just happened to be up there, and I was chatting with the guy, and he does hauling and stuff, so, you know, he goes, you got your own cans? I said, yep. He goes, great. He says, we're not in the trash business, we just haul them. And I said, that might be what we're looking for, so I just wanted to see it on behalf of the town, I can go chat with them, get some numbers together.
Don't catch the chickens.
Part-time help, I already kind of discussed it with you, but I'm sure you looked at those time cards there, I'm not sure exactly